Hi, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to pickle beets. After you wash them, you sort them to size, cut them off at the top, leave the bottom on. If you don't, they'll bleed out, and it'll be really red. There's a difference between high acid foods and low acid foods. Now what you want to be careful with, the high acid foods is a lot easier to pickle. A beet is a lower acid food, so you want to make sure you follow a recipe that has the right proportions of water, sugar, and vinegar. And they're all going to vary just a little bit, but they're all very close. That gets back to what I was talking about in the last video about this does not translate into a measurement. This is a medium-sized beet, so I'll say 5 medium-sized beets. So it could be this size, a little bigger, a little smaller. We just went through that about how many beets am I going to need. I don't know how many beets I'm going to need. We're going to use what we have. We're going to fill the jars we have. If we need more jars, we'll sterilize more jars and we'll make more brine. Once you've cleaned your beets, cut your tops back a little ways, then we want to boil them. I'm going to do it for about 20 minutes. Right now I've got the biggest beets that we have in the pot. We'll take those out, we'll cool them off, and the skin will peel right off. We'll show you that here in just a little bit. But we've got a lot of things to do before we get these in a jar. As soon as the timer goes off, we'll show you the next step. Cover this and let it cook for about 20 minutes. That was a very fast 20 minutes. What we're going to do now is we're going to just pour that through a strainer. We're going to let, see how nice and orange that is? Good. Those are the big beets. Go ahead and fill your pot back up. Get your pot about 3/4 of the way full. I'm going to take that back over to the stove. Do 1 second rinse on these just to make sure. No dirt. I've already gone through these twice. We'll just come right back over. That's about all we can fit in there. Kick that back up to high. Put the lid on it, and we'll turn that on for 20 minutes. Alright, while that second batch is getting its skin soft, I'm going to go ahead and mix up our brine. Now this is a little different. There's a lot more liquid than there is of the sugar. So I just added 1.5 cups of water. I'm going to go 4.5 cups of vinegar. 1.5 cups of water, 4.5 cups of vinegar. I will have the recipe down in the description box. So our sugar, we want 2 cups. Okay, now for our spice profile. Pickling the cucumbers and the squash, we use the salt before we refrigerated them overnight, then we rinsed them off. This, we're going to add salt to the brine. And you want to use canning salt. 1.5. Vinegar, salt, sugar, water. We got the brine, which is the most important part. And just like with the pickles, the rest of this is a flavor profile. One that we like the best, we're going to put a piece of ginger down in the bottom of each jar. This is our flavor profile. It's kind of Christmassy, but it's kind of warm. I'll have this recipe in the description. You can try it and then you can leave a comment and tell me I'm just crazy. But instead of cinnamon sticks, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. "20 more minutes went by. Can you believe that?" And we'll get our last batch going. Rinse that out. That seems about right. I think that's probably all we're going to try to do today. Yep, just enough to fit in there and everything's covered. Kick that thing back up to high. Alright, these are now cooled off. I can pick them up. I transferred them back into this bowl. See how easy that skin just comes off of there? A little cold water. At this point you can just cut the bottom off. Go ahead and just cut it at the top. Take the top part right off. Got a rough patch. Go ahead and just slice that off. One is cleaned up. But the skin, you just kind of work with your thumb. That skin comes right off. Look how nice and pretty that is inside there. Take your knife, take a little bit, take the root end off. Several different kinds of beets out there. I sort of mixed and matched when I was planting. It'll give a nice variety to our pickled beets when we're done. You got a little spot, trim it off. You got one more big one. Take your thumb, see, that skin comes off pretty easy. Yeah, this second batch is just a little too warm to handle. All right, we're going to take and cut up a little piece of ginger, put a little clove down inside of each one of these jars. You just peel off the skin. Kind of sweet, but it's kind of hot. If you're the lucky one to get the piece of ginger out of the bottom, you'll know it. The thing is, it's going to turn red. It's going to look like a little piece of beet. I'm going to take and rinse this off, and then we'll chop it up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take some nice little slices. And we're just going to take and drop one in each jar. Brine is melting nicely. The beets that we've cleaned the skin off of will fill these jars, I think, without any problem. 20 more minutes is up. Here's the thing, you'll be transferring them back and forth from clean container, strainer, back to clean container, back to strainer, as you need to throughout this entire process. We'll let that cool off for a few minutes. We're going to go ahead and peel these. Nice and cool to the touch. That skin comes off pretty easy. We like to pre-cut these, and it gives us another chance to rinse them off one last time. Oh, we're cutting about 1.5 inches, maybe 1 inch by 1 inch. A few of them maybe a little bigger. We're going to go ahead and stuff these in the jars. We're going to pack them in pretty tight. And these are going to process for a lot longer than the cucumbers ever did. It's going to be about 30 minutes, 35 minutes for a pint. Isn't that beautiful? So I'm just cutting them up into cubes. Some of them a little bigger, some of them a little smaller. Quarter that thing up, that's about the size. We just cut them into little pieces. Alright, now the easy part. Use your funnel. Just start dropping beets down in here. You want them packed in, but not too tight. We'll kind of arrange them. These wide mouths, you don't really need to have your funnel. Make sure your brine is good and blended. Just ladle it on in. We're going to have to make more. I'll leave a good 1/2 inch of head space. Once again, like all other canning, you want to go around the rim before we put the lids on it and the rings on it. You want to have a good seal. This will be the same thing, finger tight. This is the first time that you've seen this. This is only finger tight. You don't want it too tight, because as this heats up, it's going to force the air out of the jar. It's going to create a vacuum. It's going to pull that lid down tight against the glass, and the little indentation is going to pop in. It'll give you a nice good seal. Down in the bath, 1 inch of water over the top of the jars. This water is boiling. Put the lid on, set the timer for 30 minutes. During that time, I will make some more brine, pack the rest of the sterilized jars, do a little cleanup, and we'll be back to take these out of the water. And there goes another 30 minutes. Obviously, this is our second batch. And that's 13 pints of pickled beets. Thanks for coming to the kitchen. Come on, let's cook. See you later. Come on, let's plant. Let's go plant garden.